Good evening, and welcome to the Litchfield Board of Selectmen's meeting of Monday, April 11th, 2022. The board has just come out of a paperwork review. We'd like to call the meeting to order and ask everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have the review and approval of consent items. We have an account payroll manifest of April 5th, 2022 in the sum of $1,225,191.68 and of April 12th, 2022 in the sum of $202,701.41. We have a payroll manifest of April 7th, 2022 in the sum of $54,935.99. And April 14th, 2022, in the sum of $58,099.49. We have purchase order 22-08 mosquito contract in the sum of $28,500. We have purchase order 2209 communication equipment lease in the sum of $150,889.74. We have purchase order 22-10 legal services in the sum of $19,820. We have purchase order 22-11 fire protection clothing in the sum of $15,350.87. We have a purchase order 22-12 live scan system in the sum of $19,825. We have the transfer of fund to Farmland Capital Reserve Fund in the sum of $35,408. We have the tax collector's final tax bill certification notice. We have the March town clerk tax collector reconciliation, and we have a veterans tax credit in the sum of $3,000. Are there any items members would like to have removed from consent?
What's the question? What's the live scan system?
That's the grant that Captain Scotty applied for that's going to be able to do the electronic
okay.
fingerprinting.
Okay.
And yeah, that just came in just recently.
Great.
Nice.
We have a motion to
save on the ink, right?
Yeah, all digital.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Larry.
Second.
We have a second by Mr. LaSalle's. All those in favor, Mr. Larry,
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's,
Aye.
Mr. Lynch,
Aye.
Ms. Queenan.
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 5-0. Is there any other business members would like to add this evening? Hearing none, public input will occur no earlier than 6:45 p.m. The first item of business is the March 28th, 2022, April 1st, 2022, April 4th, 2022, and April 6th, 2022 minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review them, and do we have any comments, clarifications?
Yeah, I have one on the 28th minute. It said the board then discussed they wanted to proceed with the opera funds. Chairman Weber stated that this discussion with the opera funds should be headed by the CIP committee, and department heads and member of the community. And then further down, it stated that the board voted to have a special meeting or to turn it to the CIP. We didn't vote to have a special meeting.
Yeah.
No, we never voted. We did not take a
So
vote.
that should be corrected.
We made a recommendation, but no vote.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Think about
Do we want to approve as noted?
That's
Well, I
section
have
F, number two.
Okay.
Let him finish though. I don't have anything. Is he all set?
Yep.
I'm just questioning. I saw we were doing approvals 500. And then like item 2, you can see it's 500. And then when we looked at items 4 and 5, they say 400. Did somebody leave?
At one point, I believe Selectman LaSalle's went to the men's room.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry to point that out.
Way to call them out.
Sorry, I just thought it was a typo.
I remember it distinctly.
Sorry, I thought it was a typo. The only thing I would like to also add is when it was about me. Let me find the page. I think it's on page, let me get the top of it. I guess it's at the bottom. Page 4. Then it's the second paragraph. And Selectman Queen had mentioned that the need for a fire truck is real and acknowledged that she understood what their concerns were with no means no. That part's okay. Ms. Queenan noted that she is keeping an open mind regarding the purchase of a fire engine. I think before the purchase of the fire engine, I kept an open mind and I pointed to the audience and I said, because I wanted to hear everybody's
Mhm.
input. But I just want to add maybe keeping an open mind because she wanted to hear others' input regarding the purchase of the fire truck. And I can send that to the person who does our notes, so she can just put it right in.
Okay, do we want to table the minutes of March 28th, 2022 until they're amended and approve the other three?
No, as long as he makes the amendments, he's all set,
Okay.
I think. Kim?
That's fine with me.
So do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
Motion by Mr. LaSalle's,
Second.
second by Mr. Lynch. All those in favor, Mr. Leary?
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's?
Aye.
Mr. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Queenan?
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 500. Next item on the agenda is Laura E. Mills, Deputy Town Clerk, Tax Collector, introduction. Mr. Brown and Ms. Brienne, come on forward.
Good job, baby.
I'll yield to our elected town clerk, tax collector. She's very happy this evening to introduce to you her new deputy.
So this is Laura Mills. She came from Manchester, as we discussed.
Welcome.
So I'm very excited she's doing a great job so far, and I think that it's gonna be a great fit, and I definitely have no issues with going out for a while and having her, take care of the office. I think she's gonna do a great job.
That's good to hear.
No pressure or anything.
Or do we have any questions or comments?
Welcome.
Welcome. Welcome.
Black tax.
Working on it. What was that over there?
I don't know.
You'll find out someday.
So Laura, the opening statement, she previously worked for the city of Manchester, and she's a resident of Litchfield.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And has been for, not that it's a big deal, but over a year now. So very excited about being in the community. We had a good conversation about her love for this community, and so it's a welcome addition.
Yes, I'm very excited. I have 2 little munchkins. I have a 5-year-old boy and a 3-year-old girl. My husband here, and it's a great community. I'm excited for my son to start in kindergarten this year. And my sister, luckily, lives right down the road on Page Road. She watches both of our kids during the week while we work. And so it's nice to be just so close to home, so close to my kids, my husband, and I'm really excited for this change and being able to work here in Litchfield, and really stoked about it.
Where are you from originally?
We're originally from Sandwich, Massachusetts. I lived out in Utah for about 10 years. And that's where I went to college and got my degree. And then I wanted to come back home to New England.
Well, welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Okay, anything else? Well, welcome to Team Litchfield. You'll have a lot of fun.
I had fun.
Oh, you will.
All right.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank
Be
you,
well.
you too.
Don't tell anything about the black tax, okay?
So, but I'll leave that to you.
Next, we have Judy Brennan from the Recreation Commission to give us an overview of livable communities. Livable communities. Welcome, Judy.
Hi, I'm Judy Brennan. Steve said I am on the Recreation Commission, and I've lived in town for 22 years, 23 years, I think, going on that. So tonight I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about Livable, the Livable Communities Program. I don't know if anyone's familiar with it. It's sponsored by AARP, and their belief is that a livable community supports all ages, all abilities within the community, and that when you are able to look at your activities or what you're doing in town and look through the eyes of all ages and get input from all ages, it becomes a better community for everyone. And the Livable Communities Program really starts with your top elected officials and then moves down from there. So without the support of selectmen in town or in a city and mayor, then you could not even apply to become a livable community. if you look at the sheet of paper I passed out, on the left, it's where it says today 1 in 3 people are over 65. That's in the United States, and the projections are by 2034. It's estimated there'll be more people over the age of 50 than there are under 18. If you look next to that, the Litchfield demographics as of 2019, those were the most update I could get. We've already surpassed where they suspect the US will be in 2034, and that under the age of 19, we have 2,193 residents, and 55 and older, we're at 2,385. So the population demographics in Litchfield are, and this Litchfield lists it, the demographic, I can only get it from 55 up, not 50 up. So we're already surpassed where overall US is suspected going to be in 2034, where we do have more of an older population than we do our youth. So that really stands out to me, and for a reason why we need to be looking to include our older population, include activities for our older population, and those who may have handicaps or difficulties with mobility. And these are all things that the Livable community stands for. Something you have to apply for. You can't just say, oh, I want to be part of this. And they say, okay, you fill out an application. It's not too lengthy. There's some demographic questions. Your highest elected official has to be part of it. And then someone else who would be your town representative to be in contact with AARP and how you move forward with becoming an age-friendly community. So here in our town, it would have to be one more thing on you, Mr. Weber.
But all right.
But I do feel it's really worth it. There are some essays they ask you to do to describe your town, what's already going on in your town. How do you feel your town is already including all people, getting the input of all people. And then they ask for any social media accounts your town may have. And they take a look at that to get a feel for your town. So that's the application process. It's not too long, it's not too lengthy.
And there's no fee tied to it, correct?
There's no fee, it's open enrollment. If you are accepted, if you take some time, you think about this, you guys talk among yourselves, you decide you want to do it, I'll do the application, you will have to be part of it. I'm willing to be the contact. And if we are approved, then there are some benefits that come with that. One of them being access to grants. In the past year, AARP gave out 244 grants at a total of $3.5 million. There are stipulations of what you can and can't do. You can't buy vehicles with it. But you are more likely to get a grant from them if you are part of their livable communities, because you've already proven that you have a plan and that you feel as a whole, your community, you want to look out for everyone and not just youth or just, certain age, and for all abilities. So I think that having something like this would build an even stronger community. I think in the past 5 to 6 years, I've seen the sense of community grow huge in this town, and things are very contagious, and when people see other people getting involved, they tend to get involved, or what can I do to help? And I think that's something that makes this town really great and that I love about this town. If somebody who's always stepping up to do something, not because they have time, but because they care enough to make time. I think that will build an even stronger community with us. I think it would also get our different boards and commissions and committees working together as a whole for the town instead of being so isolated, which is one part of the reason I wanted to become on the Recreation Commission. I think there are a lot we can do, and different commissions work together, or different boards work together and help each other out. We can plan bigger events when you have more people involved to do that. We also would have access to support and volunteers from AARP. We'd be connected with towns similar to ours who try to do certain things we might be wanting to do. There are webinars. There's no cost to any of it. I believe it's a true program to benefit communities. And like you said, there's no charge to sign up for it, but then there is work afterwards if they want to hold you accountable, which they should. On a personal level, I really feel like in society in general that we tend to overlook our older population and our veterans. That's just when we focus on the youth. So in joining the rec commission, I wanted to be a representative of someone who didn't have young kids, but felt recreational sports or recreational activities could benefit all. And if we ever get to the point where we're not spending half our meetings scheduling Dara Pond and fields and fixing our own things that are, breaking down around town, I think we could, get into more planning some of those types of things and with other commissions. And I know we have varied boards, but there's one I want to point out that probably doesn't even realize they have a vision that fits perfectly with this, and that would be their Conservation Commission. If you look at the commission, their members are made up from the mid-20s all the way up to, I don't want to offend anybody, I'm going to say 60s to 70, up in that area anyway. That's a wide range. You've got people of all these different decades with ideas of what they would think is important in the town. And in doing that, the projects that are going on right now, you have community garden, which benefits maybe those who don't have a yard, who have apartment housing or don't have the, space for it. You have them working on an ADA compliant trail with handicap parking so that more people with mobility issues are able to access trails in town. There's one more thing I had written. Oh, the fishing derby, geared towards our youngest kids. So I think just by having thoughts of all these different age levels involved, they don't even have to look at it through somebody else's eyes. They've got this great makeup, and I think they don't even realize that what they're doing, they're involving the entire community and finding ways to make it work for everybody. And I know you can't force anybody. We can't say, oh, we have to have a person 60 years old on this board or this commission. And when we don't, and if we have boards that, let's say you had a board, between 30 and 50, then this livable communities kind of says, okay, let's look at it from someone in their 20s. Let's look at it someone from their 60s. And how can we make sure, we're meeting as many needs as we can. With things that we do. I'm not talking about holding a senior free luncheon the week before voting. I don't want that to come across because it's truly being dedicated. And if this is something we do in this town, I really want to be involved, and it's something I'm passionate about, and I want to be dedicated to it and making sure that, we're doing what we say we're going to do. I don't want to get too much into the grants because we have to decide if this is something the selectmen see as good for our community and that you want to follow through with. But you can get grants multiple years. Manchester got 2 grants last year. It depends on the project, what you're doing. Are you following through with what you're saying? Are you showing that you're trying to do these things? I think it's a really great, worthwhile program. There are 17 towns and cities in New Hampshire that are part of this. I don't know if you want me to run through them or not, but they are very, very rural, all the way up to Manchester, our largest city. So there's 17. You can also become a livable community as a state. There's only 10 states in the country fully enrolled. The only ones in New England are Maine and Massachusetts. So, that's basically it. If at some point you guys decide that you want to go forward, I have this that you can just take and look at once you're accepted. It's basically saying, okay, these are the things we're going to expect of you now. Where you would have some type of committee or grouping, whatever you want to call them. It doesn't have to meet every month, that are following through on the things we say we're doing. We could have a representative from each commission or board in town, and we want people of all ages. But it's just basically a follow through for what you can get out of it, and the grants. It's not that intensive. It just requires commitment.
So if we thought this was a good program, where would it sit? Probably as a subcommittee to the Recreation Commission? Is that what your thought was?
I don't know, maybe a subcommittee that reports to you.
Board of Selectmen?
Yeah, this is what, this is what we're doing now. This is where we want to go. Coming up with our grant ideas and seeing how I think it'll bring all the groups in town closer.
So you think you'd want a cross-functional group, somebody from conservation, somebody from rec,
Yep.
somebody from the select board, somebody planning board, I
Planning
mean,
board, but
Veterans.
heritage.
And like I
Veterans.
said, we want eyes, ears, voices of all ages. And, on a personal note, I look at what we have in town for if you want to call them I'm just going to say our older population. Pickleball is huge, right? They're in town hall 4 days a week, maybe 5 days a week using it. I look at talent hall. We all know those floors can't be redone, which means they're not very sturdy. That everything inside is, I picture it falling down and just having cinder blocks left standing. What's going to happen to that group when that's no longer usable? Are our schools going to say, oh, we have 3 gyms. Can we find a way to make this work? Things like that, because everybody knows there's probably a new school coming. So there can't be a community center coming. But how as a community are we going to meet the needs of not just our youngest, but our oldest, who actually, if you live in town and you don't have kids, you're really helping the tax burden because you're not putting any kids in the school system. And if you live in town and you have 2 kids, very likely your taxes are not covering the cost per student to educate them. So if it's not a bad thing to be known as a livable community, and we have a lot going on, even if you don't have kids. Anybody who moves in who doesn't have kids does help that tax base too. And they're supporting whatever their taxes support, whatever goes on in the town. So I just would like to see us as a town supporting those groups who don't always have as much of a voice or can't easily have access to someplace. So that's
Thank
really
you.
it. So I follow their Facebook page and I do get their newsletters. If you just Google Livable Communities AARP, there's going to be more stuff than you can read. You can go state by state, town by town, see what they do. And then if you develop questions, you want me to come back in, I'll do my best to answer them, but it really is pretty simple and straightforward.
Do we have
I
any
can't think
questions?
of reasons why this town would not want to be part of making sure we're including, everybody accessibly and age-wise. I don't see any.
I have no questions right now, but I am going to go online and read as much as I can.
Yeah,
Okay.
Go ahead. It's not an easy website to follow, but I've been following it. I've been going on there regularly for 6 months, so now I'm really good at finding things. But I do you can follow them on Facebook, and they put out different things when they're having seminars. It's a great resource.
This is not my friend, but I'll do my best.
All right. If you can't find it, you can reach out to me. And I can find the answer for you. So I just wanted to introduce you to this. I've talked to the Recreation Commission about it quite a few times as I learned more things. And it really has to start at the top level with all of you. It's something that the selectmen are truly in favor of and support of and committed to, so then everybody else falls in line.
Okay, great. I think it's a great
So
idea.
that's-
I think it's a great idea myself.
Worth looking into.
We'll
Right.
definitely look into it. Thank you so much,
Thanks.
Judy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Seeing that it is 6:55, we'll open it to public input. Any members of the public like to come forward and give input? Welcome. State your name and address, please, and
Sure. I'm gonna have to adjust this thing here. All right. My name is Jason Hubbard. I live at 29 Woodhawk Way. So I am a taxpayer in the town of Litchfield, and I'm also a lieutenant on the fire department in the town of Litchfield. I wanted to speak to some of the comments that were made on the March 14th meeting that I took some serious personal offense to. Comments like, we sat on our duffs and did nothing. We should have been out at the polls. We should have been out there. Do you reward us for doing nothing? Hearing comments like that made by elected representatives of this town, I find seriously disturbing. The idea that you're rewarding us with a fire truck is insane to me. It's not for us. We're not planning on driving down the strip with the top down in this thing. This is for the town. The town decided to vote it down, and I totally respect that. Could we have been out there? Would it have helped? I'll agree to that. If we had been out there, I think it would have helped, without a doubt. But I've heard everyone here say that they support it. I don't think anyone else here on this board was out there campaigning for it either. And I think that's because the belief is that it's for us. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But what we do for this town, I think, goes seriously unnoticed. We are dedicated. We sacrifice a lot of our personal time. We sacrifice our safety. You might not know this, but firefighting is a pretty dangerous job. Whether it's here, it's up in Alaska, it's out in Japan, it's the same job everywhere around the world. Regardless of who you are in this town, whether we know you or like you or not, doesn't matter. It doesn't factor in. We'll be there, and we will put our lives on the line if you have an emergency. All I'm asking is that the town voted it down, fine. You have the opportunity to potentially use ARPA funds to fund this thing. If you choose not to do that, I respect that too. You guys are the elected representatives and lady. If that's your choice, that's your choice. I'll respect that all day long because that's democracy. All I'm asking is that you do it objectively. You don't think that you're buying us a new truck. When we spec'd this truck, we skipped the spinning rims package because it's not for us. It's for the town. I don't understand why comments like that were made. Comments that the chief couldn't look you in the eye and tell you that it didn't get voted down because we weren't out there. For whatever reason, the town decided to vote it down. The town decided to vote it down. It is what it is. But if you're gonna decide what to do with these ARPA funds, which, by the way, are not a tax-free thing. They're not magical. It's not magical money that came from nowhere. It's federal tax dollars. One way or another, people are paying for it. So if you're gonna make a decision on what to do with those ARPA funds, whether or not to use it to buy a truck, please do it with an open mind and think about what's best for this community and not what we want. I mean, I'll show up to your house in a jalopy with a bucket of water if I have to, and I will try to put out your fire. And if I have to die trying to save your life, I will. But if you want us to be able to provide the best protection for this town, then the fire engine is what we'll need. Whether we need it today, yesterday, 2 years ago, or 10 years from now, we're going to need a new fire engine. We have mutual aid agreements. There was a comment made at some point about mutual aid agreements. Mutual is the operative word in that phrase. It goes both ways. We need to be able to provide aid to our surrounding communities as well. They expect the same thing from us that we expect from them. They call on us and they expect us to show up and be able to bring working equipment to their fires. And we expect the same from them. That's really all I have to say. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for the input and thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Board. My name is Paul Kelly. I'm the firefighter paramedic for the town of Litchfield. I also represent the Litchfield Firefighters Association as the president. I would like to speak to you tonight in reference also to some comments that were made and bring you up to speed about the status of the department. Our department has 30 plus members, all of whom have various backgrounds. Some have served this department for many years and some for a few months. We all have the same beliefs that we are here to protect the community and the people that visit it. Our expectations of the town will provide us with the tools and equipment to do our job safely. Some of our members serve full-time with other departments, and some work white or blue-collar jobs in the community. They work 40 plus hours a week, and then when they arrive home, on most nights and weekends and holidays, they answer the emergency calls that come in. They're a valuable asset to this community. With the expectations of just a few, a majority of our staff live in town. We feel the burden expressed by you to keep the tax rate consistently low. When you look at the bigger picture of the fire department, it's the largest employer of the town outside of the school. But we feel that we consistently keep under the microscope of issues that go on, but we feel the taxpayers are very conscious of our expenditures. When new members are hired for our department, if they do not have the certifications that we require, we send them to classes. Whether that be an EMT class or a fire class, it's on average of 180 to 200 hours to take the fulfillment of the class. During this time, they're away from their families and some events that might go on in their personal lives, whether it be on a weekend or a holiday or a birthday. We don't pay for them to take classes for the hours. We only pay for the class that they attend. Plus, take into the important consideration, they study on their own time, and we do not pay them or compensate them for that. The recent comments and actions by a few members of the board have taken a toll on the morale of the department. Being told that we shouldn't be rewarded with a new fire truck and be sitting on our duffs hasn't gone unnoticed. As stated by the town administrator and myself in a conversation that we had at the station, there are several that were very upset with that comment. People should be educate themselves on what we are looking for. And if they have questions, they should stop by and ask us. We're always willing to answer anybody's question in this community. The equipment that we have in our station is their equipment. They purchase it. We are allowed to use it. We maintain it. We protect it for the community. The board needs to be reminded that you serve this community. The people have voted you to allow to sit in those seats, and therefore you speak on behalf of them. So the comments that you make towards us, we take it as comments made by the community through you. Recently, the voters of Litchfield voted down the article in regards to the purchase of a new fire engine. The committee members and the command staff of the fire department tried to paint the picture as to why we needed a new one. Again, you held several meetings. These meetings lasted over several years. Year after year, we were asked to withhold it from the warrant, whether it be time of COVID, because we didn't know if funds were going to be coming in or if there was going to be an emergency crisis for funding. The ones that really took the kick to the groin or the gut were the truck committee that spent countless hours and time that they put in to bring forth an adequate funded truck. You also basically disregarded anything the deputy or the chief had to say towards purchase of a new vehicle. For an example, I recall the meeting just happened 2 weeks ago where a board member was basically saying We never told you what was wrong with this truck. They just said it was old. Comments like that are a slap in the face, again, to the hard work and the presentations that were done to this board. Not only this board, but the budget committee as well. We feel this article never received the full heartfelt support of the selectmen, and the comments made during a meeting were, I'll support putting this article on the ballot to let the voters decide. Another comment that was made was, I made a promise to the chief to put this article on the ballot. Only a few of you chose to come out and publicly say, we support the purchase of a new fire truck. So how was this article even given a chance to pass if the perception from you to the voters was that you never gave it your full and honest support? You were given information on the wording of the warrant in the article by the town administrator and the use of ARPA funds towards purchasing this vehicle. Yet some still didn't feel that this was needed, yet you chose not to support it. And unfortunately, we feel this may have caused the confusion between the voters of whether those funds were going to be used or not. Another example is at your last meeting, this group discussed purchasing a used fire truck. This topic was discussed not only by the deputy chief, but by Mr. Charbonneau, who happened to be in the room on another item that was on the agenda for that night. You were reminded that buying a used fire truck, you're not buying a 10-year-old fire truck. You're buying somebody else's headache. There's a reason they got rid of it between 5 and 10 years. It cost them a lot of money to repair, and it would cost us that money too. Another thing to consider with these engines is it may not have the sufficient tank size that we need or the compartment size for equipment that we currently have. If you need an example of buying a used fire truck, you can always reach out to the community of Hudson. They bought a truck and it was labeled a lemon and they're looking to replace it. It's 4 to 5 years old and it is doing them no service. You can also try and call the community of Merrimack. They just had to replace 2 engines this year because 2 demos that they bought have failed them. Those trucks were less than 10 years old. The Litchfield CIP addressed the need to replace the fire truck, and they made it their top priority. Yet again, the members of this board feel that the truck is no longer a priority, but yet our roads become the priority. There's also discussion of other expenditures such as equipment for the landfill and the recycling plant. Sorry. Unfortunately, some of these things have negative effects for the firefighters, and getting input from what was learned 40 years ago in most cases has absolutely no bearing how modern fire department operates today. The input you receive could may receive could be way off base and make each members of this board make a bad decision. The input given may be what the person's perception is based on their knowledge of when they joined the fire department. The standards have changed in those years, and a majority of improvements to personal safety and firefighting operation have come a long way. Your expert and subject matter advice should come from your fire department administration, who are up to current standards and safety practices, as is their job. Asking questions is a good thing. Asking questions to the wrong people is counterproductive. Making a statement that the town can go without an engine and rely on other towns to bail us out isn't the proper attitude to have. The reason we have the apparatus in Litchfield is spelt out in the ISO and NFPA standards. The fire protection based on necessary amount of water needed to protect the types of building and the structures found in the town. Today's houses are being built bigger and with more combustible materials that burn quicker and hotter than it was 40 years ago. Members of this board have made the statement that we should walk next door and see what the firefighters need. This original statement was made over 3 years ago. To this day, none of you have come in during the daytime or during a training to ever speak to any of the members as to what they feel they need to do their job. I would still encourage all of you to come over, ask questions, and be better informed and better prepared when the fire department sits before you. You'll get firsthand knowledge of what we do and why we ask for the equipment and the apparatus to protect you, your family, and the community. We feel that the board has not done due diligence in the need of the department, and our personal safety hasn't been taken into account. In regards to placing an agent fleet, the current average age of that fleet is 23 and a half years old. Surrounding towns, for example, the average fleet for Hudson is 6, Londonderry is 9, Merrimack is 13, Derry is 12 and a half, Bedford is 12, and Auburn is 11 and a half. As you can see, Litchfield either doubles or almost triples the ages of some of the communities around us. The CIP years ago listed a fire truck replacement as a top priority, the town's capital improvements. We asked to delay or move it several increased bonds, anticipation of a lack of funds. The committee CIP plan this year called for 2 trucks to be replaced, the makeup from 2020 and the current replacement of 2022. We were asked to only ask for 1 by this board, and that is what we move forward. This was prior to the pandemic's extreme, the pricing being felt on everything you buy now. We recently heard board members comment that the roads in town and drainage are our #1 priority, just ahead of a new backhoe. Most people know us to say that the public safety and the police and the fire department, as well as property preservation, is the highest priority. Unfortunately, continuing to delay replacement is going to ultimately cost the town more money and the potential that we may need to buy multiple trucks in 1 year due to a catastrophic failure. So in closing, I would just like to remind the board that we listen to these meetings, we take heart of the comments made, and the facial expressions and the body gestures by some. I would like to remind you that most of the department's on-call and duty staff are put into this town on behalf of the department are very valuable. We have just hired 6 new members, but still have other positions unfilled. Staffing is becoming a challenge statewide and nationwide. Making constant comments like this discourages the members, and ultimately they will fail to show up or leave this job, thus making it an importance on you to look towards full-time staffing, which will cost the taxpayers more. I thank you for your time and allowing me to speak to you, and we look forward to working with you to better the service and the safety of our community and the members who serve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your input and thank you for your service. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Are there any other members that would like to provide input this evening? Okay, hearing none, we will close public input at 7:15 PM. We have,
Should we respond to that at all?
if
or-
you choose to, you can.
I would.
Okay.
First of all, nobody questions what you do. Never. We know what you do. It's a very important job. It ranks right up there with police. So to say that we don't respect what you do and we question your job is that's just not right. All right. As far as the warrant article, members of this board didn't personally support it, but we voted to put it on the warrant because we felt it was the right thing to do to give the taxpayers the word and the final say on it. Okay. They said no. Okay. So as far as I'm concerned, you have to come back next year. That's just my own personal. There's 5 people sitting here. Okay. I did look Frank in the face last week or last meeting and ask him if he could look me in the eye and ask if you guys did everything that you could have done to get this past the voters. And I used, for example, the LMS project. They flooded it, the community, with information. They flooded it. Everywhere you turned, you saw stuff on the LMS project. And I think that's what got that through. We didn't see anything here. Okay. And we did speak about this. We did speak in favor of it, even though personally some of us didn't. So it kind of makes us hypocrites because we spoke in favor of something we didn't personally believe in. So I think we did, and I'll say it, and I hope it doesn't hurt your feelings, but I think we did more to support it than the fire department did. I really do. I honestly believe that. I absolutely honestly believe that. All right. We do speak on behalf of the voters, and the voters said no. So that's where we're at now. Okay. And as far as we voted 5-0 on it. It was a unanimous vote on this board to put it on the ballot. Okay. you brought forward a great option to the taxpayers. You absolutely did. I just think if you supported it more and got out there at election day, you probably would have passed it. I honestly believe that. Okay, and I've stated that a few times. The ARPA funds, when we were doing the warrants, was very fuzzy. We didn't know if they could be used, if they couldn't be used. And the one biggest fear that we had was buying something and then having the federal government say, no, you got to pay that money back. And then we're writing a check. And the taxpayers are going to, they'll tar and feather us and take us out of town, okay? As far as Mr. Charbonneau, I did discuss with him on this, and he said 2010 models through, I think it was 2012 or 2013 were bad models for used vehicles because the engines were junk. But he said, you go beyond that and they're good. Okay. And I just spoke to him last week on this. As selectmen, our number one priority are the roads in town. They absolutely are. That is stated. Okay. We took $200,000 out of the budget for the roads this year. We took the state grant for $200,000. We did not match it, which we always do. So we're in the hole. We have roads with serious problems we have to address. Okay. That's not going to leave enough to buy a fire engine. Dara Pond has got a floor that has to be replaced. We have people using that all the time. That floor is, I think somebody will go through it someday. And as far as nobody, the last thing I'll say is that when you said that nobody's been over to the fire department, that's not true. I went through there a couple of years ago with the budget committee. We walked through the whole thing. It was like an open house. Frank was there showing us everything. And I think Doug was there and a few others. You had just got the new forestry truck. We went through all, I sat in it. So, I mean, my position, I mean, my words are strong, yes, but I don't personally think they're out of line. I just think that when I make a statement, I don't want there to be any gray area. I don't think enough was done by the fire department to get this through. I wish you did, because I think it would have been a moot question. It would have passed. I think you guys could have got this passed. And it was a great deal. It really was. So, just my opinion.
If I could, there's one thing that I think we're missing with respect to the vote. And I think we can't overemphasize the fact that on the warrant itself, it says the budget committee, I don't know exactly what it said, but it gave you the implication that the budget committee wasn't in favor of it. And I'll tell you, a lot of people, that's all they look at. Now, we know that the budget committee weren't really against it, you know. In retrospect, I think that was the mistake. If we could have gotten it out to the people that the budget committee had to vote that way because it blew the tax cap. If we had gotten that word out, then people wouldn't have just gone with the budget committee. And because I was totally surprised when the fire truck did not pass. And I think I don't know whether you folks being out there would certainly there would have. I think it wouldn't have hurt. Let's say it that way. If you'd have been out there at the polls, it wouldn't have hurt. Chances are you'd have picked up some votes. Most of us here on the select board are actually working. We can't be out there unless you're on the ballot, and then you could be out there. But I think as a board, we all feel that you need a new fire truck, or you need to improve your equipment apparatus. But we also have other needs also. And I'm not going to pick and choose which are the highest priorities. I know you folks need a new fire truck. So we go from there. And I think we have to, as a town, we have to learn that the power of the budget committee is really a big deal. When people go in to vote for the warrant articles, a lot of people just look at what the budget committee recommends, and they don't look at anything else. So I think that would have made a big difference.
I think it's, I'd like to just say that while it's all fresh in our head and, summer comes quick and we start working on warrant articles again, I think it's important to understand that most likely an article put forward by this board to purchase a new fire engine will never be able to meet the tax cap. And it will never, and if we put forward an article that raises money and the budget committee cannot support, it will has the chances of failing again. So we only have three options that I can think of: using a portion of the ARPA funds and another means, maybe unassigned fund balance or a lease purchase that would be able to purchase the truck with no tax impact, at least in that proposed fiscal year. Or a 100% purchase with ARPA funds, a combination of ARPA funds, unassigned fund balance, or lease purchasing, or a flat out lease purchase agreement where the first year we defer the payment. And we talked about that. That was a serious consideration. But again, we felt that the citizens would accuse us of trying to circumvent the tax cap by putting forward an article. We have done those articles in the past, and people were, voiced their frustration about that. The sad part about all of this, if the article did pass as written, in my opinion, financially speaking, long-term, trying to align it with our capital improvement plan, it would have been the best outcome, because we were trying to align the purchase for a 5-year lease purchase. This board had talked about a 7 or 8 year lease purchase, but we reduced it down to 5 because we heard that as soon as this truck's paid off, we're going to quickly need to replace another engine, and that maybe lease purchasing for 8 years was too far out. And so we reduced it down to 5, thinking 5 years from now would be paying one truck off and asking the taxpayers to consider taking on another payment for a new truck. That would have been a good financial strategy if it had passed, with the hopes that 5 years from now, the citizens would retire that debt, but take that cost savings and apply it towards new debt, which essentially, maybe, would result in very little tax increase. So those scenarios aren't going to go away. Those are the ones that we wrestled with, from, I guess, probably September all the way up to December.
I think we need to just learn by our mistakes and move forward,
Sure, we'll have a healthy discussion come August again. Okay. Thank you for your input. It's greatly appreciated. We really do appreciate your service to the community. Okay, so we will now close public input at 7:25. Next item agenda is the abatement application for Consolidated. Mr. Brown. Thank you. Have a good evening. Take care.
So I placed on the agenda 2 items. We have a Consolidated Telephone company that has submitted an abatement request to our Avatar, our assessing folks. They have come back with some guidance on this. Basically, we have is Consolidated is not really contesting the valuation of the poles and the conduit, but they're really debating or challenging the assessed value of the use of the public right of way. And currently, right now, that's assessed at about $90,000.
Didn't we get this last year from?
Well, these very common that the utilities and all levels are pushing back on the assessment of the use of the right of way. But there is a value having the use of that right of way. And we had a big appeal that we I don't know, 4 years ago or something.
It was 4 years ago?
Pennachuck, I believe it was Pennachuck, yeah.
We have a Pennachuck one? I thought we had an Eversource one.
We did have
Couple
an
years
Eversource
ago,
one.
yeah.
And Eversource, yeah. So,
I remember going down this path a couple times.
so typically what we've done is, you know, I think our assessors here are reaching out to us saying the discussion here is the tax impact that we're talking about is minimal. It's about $1,600 a year for that right-of-way assessment. But the principle of it, you know, being consistent with what we do with all utilities throughout the town is, you know, how do you weigh that, you know, the legal costs that we could incur versus, you know, the actual tax loss of $1,600 estimated. I think it's best right now. Typically, the board would, you want to be informed of this, but we allow the assessor to use their best judgment on this, and it goes, you know, to the next level. At some point in time, it'll come back to you if it's starting to really head in a direction where it's going to cost a lot of money, legal defense.
Okay.
This is consolidated communication.
Yeah, so it's telephone.
So we're talking, this is landlines?
So yeah, so you know they have their poles and they have the conduits, you know, in town. Not all poles are owned by Eversource, so some of those are owned by Consolidated. And on top of their equipment and poles and conduits there's an assessment for the use of the right of way. You know, this
So
is
some
just
of their right-of-ways could
their
be
equipment
shared,
is
right?
in the right of way, you know, and there's a value of having it
Yeah.
there, even though they don't own the land. It's there and it's assessed, and they're contesting the value of that assessment.
Aren't some of those right-of-ways shared between multiple utilities?
Well, they are, and I think that's why when we, you know, from what I see in the letter here, they're saying their portion is $90,000, and I think it's probably because there's other, you know, there's the cable company and there's Eversource,
So Verizon and
and yeah, I think I'm not sure if Verizon still has anything.
I don't think Verizon's.
I think it's all wireless now. So probably Consolidated has acquired those assets.
And we have another one for America Towers. Is that the same?
So that's different. And American Towers, they have a cell tower, and it's on 242 Derry Road, and they're appealing the value not of the. It's very similar, not the value of the tower and the equipment that's on there, but the assessed value of the land that they lease.
Mhm.
So, and in this case, the assessors are recommending that it be denied, and their basis is that American Tower has not brought forth any evidence of market value. So they've not gone out and actually provided with hardcore numbers of justifying why they believe that value isn't accurate. The town's value is not accurate. So that's a straightforward denial, which requires your action. Consolidated is not a denial. It's just really making sure that you're comfortable with allowing Avatar to continue discussions with Consolidated, and most likely it will come back to you with some final resolution, whether or not we decide to move forward through the Department of Land of Appeals or into private court.
Well, brings up a question regarding poles. Feels like PSNH or Eversource is replacing a lot of poles out there. Doing so, they do it. Now you got the other pole is side by side with an existing pole. The top got off. Consolidated is not transferring their connections to the new pole in many places. Okay, and same thing with the cable that's on there too. Just wondering why. We get a pole charge or something like this?
No, I think it's just coordination and timing of getting the other lines changed over to the new pole, and then Eversource then scheduling for the pole removal. But you're right. I mean, you can, it's very common to ride through town and see a new pole
All over the
installed
place.
and then half a pole with, still cable and telephone equipment on it.
And is there a cost of the pole being taxed? That's the idea here, you know?
I don't think it's the case. I think it's just
The right of
the
way.
coordination of getting them scheduled to transfer their
Or is it
They're-
not enough
they're wide.
use in the phone business now for the copper that's up there? That's another factor.
Yeah, may not be worth them to move it. So do you need an action from us on these two?
I think if you supported Avatar, the continue to work was consolidated,
I do support that. Have
and
more.
then the American Tower, they're recommending denial. That would be a vote to deny.
Cell towers
Towers.
are more important today.
It seems like this is the third or fourth time in the last few years we've had issues with
Consolidated.
over assessments or under assessments or the Eversource one consolidated from before. I mean, and now these two. I mean, are they doing the town justice here?
Question is.
I mean, we pay them a lot of money to get this right.
My
We're-
gut would say that they do this to every single town to lower the cost.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, they
this is,
do it as a matter of course.
Better believe it. I mean,
It's-
they know that most towns don't have the monies to fight them, right? So if they can reduce $1,600, $2,000, it's just more money back in their pocket.
I agree with that. You're 100% right. This is a yearly thing. We see a lot. And they're just playing the game, or the assessment. I like to know what the assessment, the other cell towers in the other communities are per se, based on what's there. And see what they're coming up with.
The cell tower on Dairy Road, is that on town land?
No, it's on the church,
Oh, okay. So the Tabernacle.
Abatement.
In the back of Tabernacle is, so why why does the town have anything to do with it?
No answer to that one.
well, because that they're leasing,
The land.
the land and they've installed the cell tower there. So it's no longer tax exempt because it's being used for a private purpose.
That's
But it's
section.
still owned by Tabernacle.
The land that it's on, yes,
Right.
but the tower company leased the space.
Yeah,
The value of that thing is required to be paid for by the tower company, not
Okay.
by the tabernacle. That's the agreement there.
And the Tabernacle, I'm going to assume gets a monthly, like Kevin says, a monthly or an annual lease payment
sure.
and probably a percentage of commission,
It's usually a monthly payment.
Is that the only cell tower in town?
No, we have an Morgan Road. I know we have one there, and there could be equipment. I don't know at the water tower or
The
not.
water tower, I think John said
Not
there was
sure.
some
I
other
know
stuff.
John's out there, but I mean,
No, but didn't we have to go through a whole lot with some other services to get on it? And we had to talk about who's going to plow the road and different backup power. There's a lot of different caveats that went to that one.
And that wasn't that was not a cell
Verizon.
tower.
I think it was a Verizon tower. Yeah,
Is it a Verizon tower out there?
I think
I thought it was when we went through the whole
I don't remember.
communication tower program
yeah.
because there was some.
he built a
nuance.
tower there, so I'm not sure if they have cell up there or not. Remember, he actually poured concrete.
He had to put a new tower in because he
Put a
was going to get
tower.
on somebody else's tower, but then he found that he couldn't, if I remember correctly.
But definitely Morgan Road, cell
Yeah,
tower there.
That's cell tower there.
Okay.
And that one, they're always updating.
Always up there?
They're doing work inside with all the electrical and everything else. When I was here, once a year, they're upgrading a lot of equipment inside the existing conditions. That's all it was.
So do we want to make a motion to allow Avatar to negotiate with Consolidated?
Make
So
that
moved.
motion. So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. LaSalle,
Second.
second by Mr. Lynch. All those in favor, Mr. Leary,
A reluctant aye.
Mr. LaSalle,
Aye.
Mr. Lynch, Ms. Queenan.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. Motion carries 500. Do we have a motion to reject the what is that?
Deny
161,000?
American Towers.
Deny American Towers abatement.
Abatement application.
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion by Mr. Lynch,
Second.
second by Ms. Queenan. All those in favor? Mr. Leary?
Before we vote on that, I mean, that's a $400,000 difference. That thing probably screams legal.
So we're basically rejecting it.
Yeah, I know, which means he's
they'll
probably,
come
they're
back,
probably
Rob.
gonna sue. Okay,
If they, they'll come back before they sue.
yeah, all right. Even a more reluctant eye.
I know what you're saying.
Mr.
Bob.
Salas?
Aye.
Mr. Lynch?
Aye.
Ms. Queenan?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. Motion carries 5-0, and I'm sure we will see this again.
Can you make it
I love
4.5?
And they may come back, maybe they'll come back with a market analysis.
Yep.
So,
And that's important. If the market value is changing these things,
Mhm.
the assessor should know this. Okay? And he should be comparing those things. So that needs to come up.
Okay, next, we have investment policy review. Mr. Brown?
Oh, we have
Yeah,
town
it's at the
administrator
bottom. You
report.
have to screw that. Somehow the non-public got above it.
Yeah, what happened there?
I don't know.
I know, it's the operator.
What's that?
Operator error.
All the way at
Yeah,
the bottom
scroll
of
to
the
the
bottom.
bottom.
All the way to the bottom, Rich.
Oh, on the
Beyond
links.
non-public.
We actually, a few meetings ago, we went through the investment policy. It's an annual review. And I think we got, our agenda continued to get kind of loaded up with some stuff. So I put this back on there. It is an annual review. Our auditors just gave us notice that they'll be coming in May and going through and doing our books. And this is one of the things they may look at. They don't always look at it, but they, from time to time, they'll ask for a copy of the investment policy. The investment policy is required by state law. It requires the board to adopt one annually. The primary purpose of the investment policy is to make sure that we are protecting and preserving the principle of our funds, making sure that same, that they're available. We maintain the liquidity of them. So pretty much our funds are not out there in the stock market. We wouldn't be out in those areas. They are, lately, we just haven't had really any investment opportunities in CDs, but that is really the only tool that we can have: money market accounts and CDs. And the treasurer will sit down with the finance director, consult with me, and they'll look at an opportunity between, when tax monies come in and our payment schedule out to the school and county taxes and just our operating expenses. So we can put, funds out in a CD for, no more than 2-3 months, maybe a little longer sometimes, depending on the time of year. The investment policy makes statements in there that, in accordance with state law, that are public officials, there are certain public officials that require to be bonded. Those are your tax collector, your treasurer, your deputy tax collector, and our insurance policy provides a bond for those officials. Each year, the state asks for a copy of those certificates, along with the town auditors. And also, the policy has an area in there where the treasurer can delegate the deposit authority. So if in the past, many years ago, way before my time, the treasurer actually would go to the bank every day. And they've delegated that authority now, consistent with state law, where the town clerk or the deputy is delegated to make those deposits. And when that occurs, the Board of Selectmen actually are involved in that process. It comes through and you approve it. And I think the last time we brought this up, there was some questions about the trustees, the trust funds, library trustees. All this is just for the general fund. So they have their own investment policy that they're required to maintain, in which, I have a copy of that. So
Do they live within the same rules?
they do, but the trustees of trust funds, they have a more diverse portfolio. They work with the bankers, and they do expand into some stocks and stuff like that, where it's not just CDs and money market like us,
They have a
because they have longer investments.
There's no money in CDs.
No,
What days are gone?
It's pretty much money market, but
Does,
Money on that.
are we required to do an audit every year?
yes, I believe,
Yeah, we do.
I hesitated because I didn't know if it was every other, but,
Every year.
but every year we do one.
They usually sit out there all the time.
I know we had a bill that came up. I'm on municipal and county government. And a bill came up because there's a town up north that hasn't audited their books in like 10 years.
Oof.
And they won't let anybody into audit. And so this is a bill to make it a state law that they have to get audited.
Yeah.
There's always one.
Well,
There's one
I
and
don't, there's probably more than one.
Yeah.
Of course, a lot of those are little places,
Yeah,
Dixville Notch.
Yeah, really.
costs more to get the audit than another.
Well,
people
that's,
there.
yeah. Yeah, I it's a practice that we do. I'm not sure if there's actually, every town I've ever worked in, we do an audit on an annual basis, but I'm not sure if there's a state law that requires you to be audited.
You can find
I think
out
when you
tomorrow.
start getting into, if you have a bond, you have grants, it's just that's when they're going to require a copy of your audits. And we have to provide a copy of the audit to our bonding agency every year. And probably when I signed documents for that bond, one of the requirements was that you have an annual audit.
All my years of being in town government, there's always been one.
Yeah.
Always
But-
one.
I think what Rich raises the question is there an actual state law?
Well, that's a
Because you
good
have to
And,
question.
and I'll find out. I
You don't look.
have a
you
feeling
know.
there isn't a state law.
Have Karen make the phone call. Give you some time.
Save herself what, $12,000?
Nice.
So have you changed anything in this?
No, just it's the same policy that we've
Exactly
adopted
the
every
same?
year.
Yep.
Okay.
So we've discussed it twice now. It's just an annual review, and
I remember
Okay.
talking about that.
board just wants, if you're comfortable with it, if you want to wait till the next meeting, but if you're comfortable with it, you could just approve the annual review as
So we
presented.
can just approve it now, sign it next meeting.
Yeah.
Because we have to sign.
Make the motion, we approve it.
Motion by Mr. Lynch,
Second.
second by Ms. Queenan. All in favor, Mr. Leary,
All right.
Mr. LaSalle's,
Aye.
Mr. Lynch,
Aye.
Ms. Queenan.
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion passes 500.
Yeah, I wasn't reluctant on that one.
I like the no changes.
I do.
Next, we have the town administrator report. Mr. Brown.
This ought to be short.
Pretty quick. Just want to give the board a heads up that Chairman Weber, Captain Scotty, and a representative from the Londonderry Police Department, we met to discuss the shooting incident that occurred last year on Tanager Way. The residents out there, one of the residents had reached out to Chairman Weber and asked, if we could do some follow-up because they understood that both police departments had closed the case. So these residents are looking to come in and talk to the Board of Selectmen. We asked if we could meet with the both representatives of the police department to get background on it. It was a very informative meeting. We've been given some reports, and I have forwarded those reports to each of you selectmen. And I have reached out to legal counsel and shared those reports with her to see what input she would have. So there has been some, Q&A back and forth from legal counsel and myself. So I'm in the process of still maybe answering some of those questions as a follow-up. But, take a look at those documents. I believe at your next meeting, most likely we'll have coordinated with the police departments, with legal counsel, and Tanager Way residents would like to come in and talk to the board about the situation.
Well, at this point, it's a police matter, right?
Well, the issue
It's a-
is there's no criminal findings, so there's nothing that they can do.
Okay.
So
So the question that came up with the police officers were, listen, we're very confident that there's no criminal findings. There's nothing that we can do to continue this investigation. So the question is there a regulatory process? Is there something that the Board of Selectmen can do because of public safety, zoning, anything like this? And that's the reason that we're reaching out to legal counsel to see, is there anything that we're not aware of that we should be aware of? That the
As a regulatory matter.
as a regulatory matter.
Okay.
Is Londonderry asked to be involved in what a regulatory concern here?
No, this was more on the Board of Selectmen. What authority, if any, would the selectmen have in this matter? That's the question I've asked legal counsel.
I don't know whether we have any.
None that I know of.
we're not sure. That's why
Right
we
now, like I
figured
said, it's a Q&A, and
Yep.
I don't think, well, we'll wait.
the residents asked, and
Mhm.
that was like
Yeah.
the only thing we could come up with. So we figured we'd try to unturn everything possible.
Yeah.
So at least we can do our due diligence for
Yeah.
the safety of our community.
We could build a wall.
Well, let's see what legal counsel has to say.
All right.
Yeah.
And in regards to correspondence, my second report, I am working with our special legal counsel that handled the Pennachuck water rate case. They have started to put together a response to the letter we received from a resident, which, had a lot of questions. And they're using, and they're working on it. And obviously the consultant that they hired that had a background in understanding how the rating is all calculated with the size of pipes and this and that and capacity of water. There's a lot to trying to answer those questions that were asked. They were simple and easy questions to ask in a letter, but to be able to respond to them with factual, responses takes a little resource. And so that's still ongoing. I do expect that we'll have that wrapped up by your next meeting as well. And just wanted to make a point that I will be on vacation, school vacation week. So I have told Karen White about this a couple months ago. She has marked her calendar. She will be here at your next meeting.
Thank you. Selectmen reports, Mr. Lynch.
I did not go to the Conservation Commission meeting. My mother had a concern, and I let them know, and I didn't go. But I talked to Joan. The meeting went well. He's good.
Ms. Queen.
Me. I have 3 reports. First one's the planning board. We met on Tuesday, April 5th, 2022, here at the town hall. The next meeting is Tuesday, April 19th, 7 p.m. here at the town hall. The main item on our list right now is the 64 townhomes in the northern part of town from across from Corning Road. They're still working their way through the planning board process, focusing now on potential traffic issues and continually trying to make improvements for abutters on Temple Drive, going down that way. Because the unit's going to go a little bit on 3A and then down Temple. Corning Road right now by the Department of Transportation has a grade of a D today. People on Corning Road trying to take a left on 3A, it's the time they wait to do it. They believe that if those 64 units go in, it'll still remain a D. They know in the future it's probably going to be worse, 10, 15 years out. I think Blue Karen calculated 7 years out. We know there might be other development in the area. This developer has been very good working with us throughout the whole phase of this project. They are going to leave potentially right-of-way room on the side of the road in case the road gets expanded later or turns are needed. So we are still waiting to hear on that.
That is a tough intersection.
It really is.
Yep. We are.
It'll be a milestone when the town of Litchfield gets its first traffic light.
And that will be the intersection.
Oh, Rotary.
Yeah, because Page Road is Hudson.
That's the other one that really needs one. But
We'll be having a workshop about Albuquerque Avenue. I believe it's May 17th. I will double check with that by our next board meeting. We see Speeding being reported on Albuquerque, tailgating, going through stop signs seems to be a big one. Traffic calming measures are really what the planning board can do. The rest are law enforcement. But we still want to look at that to see, if there's anything we can help improve. We're looking at maybe painted crosswalks near the high school just to see if there's a problem. They were just investigating. We don't know. I see that they have internal people there directing traffic. I know that there's a gentleman helping with the buses getting around. I do see a couple issues, but I think we need to talk with the school to see if there really is a need there.
We had a resident reach out also asking.
Oh, you
about
did?
that.
Well, there are some initial findings, that we'll talk about, but we still just need probably still to talk to some people. I don't want to shock the school. It's, they're doing a good job trying to manage it. It's just, again, driving people are passing on the right. The school zone being 25 miles an hour ends right before Talent Road, and kids are trying to get from Talent Road across, and the buses are turning down that road. Little things can be implemented, I think, to fix that. I think they're in the 2-mile radius of walking will still be the Pinecrest intersection. And then, of course, we were just speaking of Talent Road. So maybe no decision being made. We're just inquiring just to see if we have to maybe have meetings with the school or us to just paint some crossing things. What I did hear today, I was shocked, was my friend was in a court case where a child did step out into the road and was killed. The driver was texting. But what it came down to law-wise was did the child cross at a crosswalk? Because if the child was killed in the crosswalk, it's a different law than if they weren't in the crosswalk. So
Getting off a bus?
no, I think just walking, he just walked into traffic. So it's just something to be, again, it's a legal question. So I have.
Where was this, in New Hampshire?
Okay, so, but let's just look at that as all I'm saying. We might be introducing an issue, so I just want to make sure. So still investigating. Capital Improvement Plan Committee, we met on April 4th here at the Town Hall. Meetings will start to be held the first Monday of every month. The next meeting will be May 2nd. Do you believe we're saying May already? At 6 p.m. here at the Town Hall. During the fourth meeting, what was discussed was Jay Mankara, who is the NRPC committee member on the team, will assign the current CIP report. So right now on the website, we have the spreadsheet. He's going to create the report that everybody's used to seeing, all the backup data that went into this. The members will add any new items to the CIP that we had spoken about at the Board of Selectmen meeting, that any items that were taken off in the past, any items that did not meet the $50,000 threshold. I guess if they were $40,000 or less back then, with inflation, they might now be $50,000. So maybe to look at that. And then anything that we're hearing about culverts, roads, and equipment. So that'll get put on the list. Then the members will prioritize the list and come back to the board and determine what's going to be paid with ARPA funds and what will not qualify. And I believe Jay Mankar is also going to start looking at impact fees. That's a big task. Okay.
The last individual retired, right? That did it for us?
Yeah, Bruce Mayberry was the consultant that this town had hired. And we would, from time to time, consult with him to see if he felt the use of the funds was consistent with the methodology. Sometimes he would concur, and sometimes he did, say, advise not to.
That's a lot of, what do they keep saying? Deep reading. That's not a small assignment there.
It's not a small one.
National Regional Planning Committee. The last full commissioner meeting was on Wednesday, March 16th. And after the board meeting, I said I would report to you this board meeting of what happened there. The next, just for the record, next full commissioner meeting will be Wednesday, June 15th, 30 Temple Street in Nashua at their headquarters. I'll do the small ones first. There's a fee increase coming, about 5% for their fee, for their services. It'll cost Litchfield about $310 to $320. It won't be for 2023, but it'll be for 2024, and we'll get the information over to Troy for budgeting. The fees we pay get into grant fund matching that all the towns put in. All right. Let me see. A big topic at NRPC was when COVID was happening, not a lot of traveling was happening on the roads, so the tolls weren't being paid, and that's where we get a lot of our money for state projects is through the tolls. So even though we weren't collecting a lot of money, a 501c was established to start getting money through grants that we couldn't get at a federal or state level. So they're going to try to make some money up that way. Also, Biden had a new law passed, the bipartisan infrastructure law. I think that was $1.4 billion New Hampshire will get over 5 years for federal highway and highways and bridges. So the gentleman came from the state to give a presentation, and they don't even know how they're going to get the money from the state yet, how they're going to put it into the channels that exist now to the state. So just stay tuned. But that'll affect how money comes into the NRPC this way. NRPC's, all of New Hampshire, but the governor's working on a regional housing assessment need. Nashua is one of the regional plannings, but all of the ones in New Hampshire are working on this. This time, they are making sure they have asked the same questions in all the RPCs and report the data the same to the governor, so he's not getting one format this way, one format that way. Currently, they're in the data collection phase. I think the Capital Corridor project, which was the railway that was supposed to go from Boston to Manchester and a couple of stops in Nashua. I think I just saw something in the paper that it might be stopped. At the state level, we might have voted down the money. So I'm not sure if that's on hold or not, but at the moment, it looks like it may be shut down according to the votes.
I think we'll have a circumventional highway before we have a train.
Okay. So NRPC was supporting that, and I know that our state reps might have had a different idea, and more was more bipartisan, I think. But so it's called HB 1432 is the housing bill, I guess. So I think that railway might not happen.
Right now, they say that we have at least a $20,000 or 20,000 unit deficit in our housing in New Hampshire. 20,000 units.
Oh, I believe it. Yep.
And, the vacancy rate is like 1%. And there's a multitude of housing bills. And the problem is that legislators struggle with home rule with respect to planning board rules. Because a lot of the problem is that some of the zoning is exclusionary. And, but yet when you try to, if the state were to force planning boards to have more dense housing, for instance, that people are afraid of that because of home rule. So that's what people struggle with. Mm-hmm. With respect to Albuquerque, I occasionally see on the WhatsApp page that people will talk about people blowing through stop signs on Albuquerque. And I have not seen that. Have any of you seen that?
I've seen that.
I've actually been stopped and have somebody came into the passing lane, the turning lane, and went right through the whole intersection while I was sitting there.
Wow.
This happened to me this week.
Guy in a
Yeah,
truck.
Pinecrest in Albuquerque. I came to stop and on Pinecrest, car in Albuquerque went right through. Did the bump and run.
Didn't even stop.
Didn't even stop. Bump and run.
Bump and run.
Yeah, just kind of hit the brakes and then.
You play the game.
Yeah.
What it is, they've got two cars that are going to come up from somebody, and they got the directionals on. They're going to try to get by the guy with the directional before he makes the turn to go that way.
Yep.
That's what happened over here just recently. Yep. And what I found, I think each intersection due to this bad winter we've had too, the markings are terrible. Okay, all over the place. Everything's down. It's gone. Our roads are in bad shape when it comes to identification, stop ahead, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Even the stop signs are getting faded over time. It's life. In the crosswalks, well, you can put up a sign. Yeah, I think you could do. You can put the people said we'll put up a blinking stop sign. In other words, you're going to come to a stop. It blinks all the time on solar. Okay, mm-hmm. To indicate there's a stop sign here, they'll see it better.
Mm-hmm.
And put four-way or this other thing.
Yeah,
I think
the four-way
signage
intersection.
was an issue, right?
Sure. I never see There used to be, Bob, correct me. Was it Ness and Cake?
Used to be a four-way.
And we got rid of that.
Yep.
And the question sometimes, should there be a four-way? Based off the number of cars that go through there. You got time to stop and look, you know what I'm saying? So that comes up too in the question. You know, should there be or should there not be?
Yeah.
Okay?
But I mean, if you start putting them places like that, you're gonna put four-ways at Talent and Albuquerque and maybe a few other Century.
Yep.
Busy streets. I mean, you could. I don't have a problem. I personally don't have a problem with it.
Actually, that might be a good idea because it would force people at least to stop, or well, force people.
To slow
You know,
down.
they wouldn't be able to get up so much momentum, you know?
Passing on the right's another big one in town.
Yeah.
It is, oh, yeah.
The only other one would be Hudson, that Amazon, did everybody see that Amazon might have backed out of Hudson? I think the owner who bought the land and has the buildings was gonna lease it to Amazon. I don't know if the buildings
The
have been
buildings are
started.
still going up.
The buildings are still
Amazon
going up.
is, at this time, is not the tenant.
And they don't know what
Somebody
the
else.
tenants are gonna be, so they may change the
This time.
buildings.
Okay, well, that was,
That's still under discussion.
it's a big project. But you know,
Build it, they will come.
Yeah. The only thing I want to say about that was there was a lot of heartburn over this Amazon. And I understand their right to do business and, you know, and we all use Amazon. So, but I'm saying reflecting from a planning side, whether it's NRP at the regional or us as a town, Jim Battis was the, I think, Board of Selectmen at the time. He might have been, I think maybe I'll take that back. I think he was head of the planning board. And what that poor gentleman went through, watching him at NRPC, and the town was upset because Amazon was coming in, and they ended up going from appointed to elected. That's how upset the people in town were. And Litchfield, we had a lot of warrant articles this year because we were trying to control warehouse sizing, you know, so we had a reaction to that as well. So we're all for growth, and I get it, but there's ramifications when these things come into an area. Hudson is performing a traffic study for their entire town. I don't know where they're going with that or what drove that, but I don't think Litchfield needs that yet. But it is interesting that they're trying to see from a whole town perspective.
And that's the Hudson's point where you got the circumferential highway, which is supposed to come from the south and loop all the way down. And come from 111 and through Litchfield at the south end of town where the other bridge was supposed to be built. So that goes back 20 years plus.
I don't know.
More than that.
But if Amazon's pulling out, I don't know if that was part of their traffic study too. You know, I don't know how that whole
It's a
thing.
chess match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I have to update on the
All right,
reports.
thank you. From my side, Recreation Committee meets tomorrow evening. And the School Facility Improvement Committee meets on Wednesday. So several meetings this week. Mr. Larry.
All right. Budget Committee meets on April 21st, next Thursday. That'll be our next meeting.
April 21st.
April
Oh,
21st. Yeah, it's a Thursday night. And a couple other things, just odd, unassociated items from that, but Veterans Group is having a golf tournament on May 25th at Pastor Conway. If there's any viewers out there that are interested, flyers are everywhere. You can't hit a stick without catching one of them.
Yep, come out and support the veterans.
Yeah, get out and support the veterans. It's gonna be a good day. And
This is gonna work.
and in the month of May, the Lazy Painter is planning on getting back to the old town hall. Do some more work over there. Get it pretty for Memorial Day for our dedication.
Are we gonna be hit with the material increase?
Fortunately, I bought all the material last year,
Oh, that's good.
so yeah, I wouldn't do that to the taxpayers anyways.
Also, with respect to the veterans, did everybody notice the new flags?
Oh, they look beautiful. They look
They
really
really do.
nice. They put what, 16 up? I think it was.
Those
Four,
out here.
just 16 here around.
Yeah, and
this
then they did all the recycle way.
They did a
Came
bunch of
down there
different-
on Saturday and they went all the way down to the first pole inside the gate.
Yep.
It looks really nice. And the new flag poles illuminated, look beautiful.
Oh, yeah, yeah. We went up there a week ago, Friday, and I had a friend with a bucket truck. We changed the light at Hillcrest because it was kind of dull. We wanted a brighter light. So Bobby Jock's got the new light and we went up there and took like 2 minutes to change it, but it looks so much better now.
They're really bright
Yeah,
now.
they're really
Looks great.
very nice. They want to like plant flowers around the bottom and stuff, but.
Veterans are doing great work.
Got to talk to the trustees first.
Yeah.
Everything goes through them.
Mr. LaSalle's.
The Heritage Commission was supposed to meet in April. And I did not receive any notification. So I sent an email to Carl to see if I, when it's supposed to be. And the emergency management team, does anybody know when they meet?
When needed, you'll get an
Yeah,
email
as
saying that
needed.
it's
Okay.
time to do it.
So
but
pray for no big brains.
You're hoping
Yeah.
not to have any meetings at all, because usually when we have a meeting, it means something bad's going on. And in 2 years, we had a lot of meetings.
I think, Robert, you should go to the,
That one?
I'm just kidding.
I'll go.
No, it's all right. It's all right.
All right, we do have 2 more items on the agenda this evening. There are non-public sessions under RSA 91A:3-2A, employee dismissal, discipline, or investigation, and another one under RSA 91A:3-2A, employee compensation. Do we have a motion to go into non-public?
I make a motion to go into non-public.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Lynch, a second by Mr. LaSalle's. Roll call vote. Mr. Leary.
Aye.
Mr. LaSalle's.
Aye.
Mr. Lynch.
Aye.
Ms. Queen.
Aye.
I am also a yes. Motion carries 5-0. We're now going into non-public session. While the board does not anticipate the need to return to public session following the non-public session for any reason other than adjourn the meeting, we reserve the right to do so if the non-public session necessitates the board taking action in a public session. We are now in non-public. Thank you for tuning in, and everyone be well.